Like that. He said he will never take it down. Oh yeah. This is a fisher. A fisher cat.
Oh, okay.
It's actually a weasel.
Wait a minute.
Oh my goodness.
I think we have an even better example maybe. This is fisher. A lot of people know about them because they kind of make these screeching sounds, and they eat squirrels. I mean, this isn't that much bigger than a cat, but it's in the weasel family, so they can be pretty aggressive, and they're very efficient hunters.
But like if you saw one in the woods, you wouldn't have to worry. He's not going to.
It's not going to go after you, no. No, I mean, I think they're like 10 to 15 pound animals. Unless it was rabbit or something like that, it's gonna run away from you.
As Linton was saying, everyone always talks about fishers. Fishers are relatively new. By the way, I'm ever Castro with Green Futures, and I come on a lot of the trustee walks, some of them. But fishers are, we're native to this part of the New England. However, they were extirpated by the early colonial farmers when they cut down all the forests. Fishers have to live in trees, and then they were trapped for fur, because they have, as you can see, wonderful fur. And this is a female, and that's a female also. The males are a third larger, but as Linton said, they're only maybe 7 to 10 or 12 pounds, female fishers. And I know a lot of people think, well, they go and they eat your cats, or they hear them howling in the woods, and they sound like a woman screaming. It's all fiction. If you go online and you Google fisher cries, you'll hear most of them are really fox, mating barks. They're the bark of the gray fox. So we'll dispense with that, erroneous information. But the other thing is that fishers normally eat squirrels, gray squirrels and red squirrels. That's their prey. And in the winter, since this is a winter walk, they're active all winter long. And like most of the creatures in the bioreserve or anywhere else in New England, you don't see them because our woods are so dense. They hear us way before we see them, and they run off. But what they are doing in the winter is, around here, they're chasing snowshoe hares. So this is a snowshoe hare, and it's the main prey of the fisher when they're not after the squirrels. They'll poke around in cedar swamps looking for a snowshoe hare. And these are of course what color in the summer? Brown, right. And they're one of the few mammals we have that turn white in the wintertime, and they're common here in the bioreserve, but if you go up to Maine or New Hampshire, you know that you'll see them dead all over the highways. They're very common up north. Fascinating amount of wildlife, and I hope someday maybe Linton will have the funds to install some game cameras or trail cameras. You see them at Dick's, you see them at all these sporting goods stores, and to set up, because that's the only way. And then you can have a display over there.
And, if you're not familiar with the trustees, we're a statewide nonprofit conservation organization. We're made up of 100,000 people from every corner of Massachusetts, people like you who enjoy the outdoors, like to protect open space, and use those open spaces for recreation, education. All of our properties are open to the public. That's an important part of our mission, is providing public access. So we have hiking trails, ski trails, over 108 properties now all across Massachusetts. And here,
are your ski trails just cross country?
Yes. Our big ski area is called Notch View, which is out in Windsor, Mass, out in the Berkshires. But yeah, we don't have any downhill skiing. So this area out here, we have a property called Copacut Woods, which is just a mile or two down the road. But we're also partnered with the City of Fall River and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts in what's called the Southeastern Massachusetts Bioreserve, which is almost 14,000 acres of forest that basically stretches from the Freetown State Forest up to the north, all the way down here into Dartmouth. So covering a huge area that's basically in between the cities of Fall River and New Bedford. And a lot of people have no idea that we actually have this enormous forest out here. And it's really important to have such a large, sort of unbroken forest in order to provide habitat for all of the native plants and animals that belong here in southeastern Massachusetts. And a lot of them can't survive in a small fragment of maybe 100 or 200 acres. That's just not big enough to provide habitat for a lot of these species. So having 14,000 acres is really something that's pretty unique for this area that's fairly densely populated. And so today we're going to be taking a walk here on the Watuppa Reservation, which is the part of the bioreserve that's owned by the city of Fall River. The water department owns around 6,000 acres out here to protect the drinking water supply, which is North Watuppa Pond. And we're actually going to be walking down to the pond today. Normally, the shoreline of the pond is closed to the public. It's not open for people to go hiking, but most of the city's land is open. Basically, Blossom Road here that you came in on is sort of the dividing line. So all the land east of the pond, which is everything that way, is open to the public now, which wasn't the case for over 100 years. All of the city's watershed lands were closed. And a lot of people have stories of being chased out of here by the environmental police because they weren't supposed to be here. But now, with the creation of the bioreserve, most of that land is actually open. And there's trails, there's a new trail map that was produced. If you don't already have one of these, I'll pass these around, you can help yourself. There's a new parking lot that you probably passed. The first gate that's down here on the left, there's a new parking lot that was put in that hasn't been officially opened yet, but hopefully in the near future you'll be able to come out here, you know, on your own, and you can park in that parking lot and explore a lot of the trails over here on this side. But today we're going to be taking advantage of the fact that we have permission to go onto the western side of Blossom Road, and we're going to be walking down and exploring an area right along the North Watuppa. So we're here at the reservation headquarters. There's a little star, and you can see these lines sort of mark the area that's not open, which is everything between the pond and the road. But this little lollipop of land that kind of sticks out into the water, that's where I'm hoping to get out to today. Along the way, we'll be, stopping to talk a little bit about some of the different adaptations that living things have to survive the winter, talking a little bit about some of the history out here, yeah, hopefully people have good shoes. There might be some slushy snow in some areas. I'm also going to pass around our winter events flyers. Today's walk is the first of our winter walks this year, but there's other programs going on over the next few months. There's an animal tracking program in a couple of weeks, and if we see some tracks today, we'll stop and talk a little bit about that, but hopefully in a couple of weeks there might be some fresh snow and we can do some animal tracking. All right, why don't we'll start to mosey this way. And
I know it is.
Where we are right now is the old Blossom Farmstead. Blossom Road, Blossom Brook is just down the way here. So this was the old farmhouse, and a lot of these buildings are old barns from the Blossom family. At this point, so that barn is probably going to be taken down, and but some of the old timbers can actually be reused. It's a lot of these old hand-hewn timbers that were actually probably cut from the land out here. But that's a little bit of the history of this land, and you'll notice as we're walking, there's stone walls. They're actually going to pass the family cemetery up the road here. So even though this is now all forested land, back 150, 200 years ago, these would have been open fields. I think you could actually see all the way to the North Watuppa from here, because all this was just open farmland not that long ago.
So Linton,
Yes.
do these trees end up to be the same forest makeup that it was in the 1800s? You know, when the second forest comes back in?
Yeah.
Do we end up with the same trees? Oaks and hickory?
No, I mean,
and
certainly
pine?
not necessarily. I mean, there's some similar trees, like white pine would have definitely been around, but the white pines would have been much bigger. White pine can, live to be 200-300 years old. But the oldest trees we have out here are mostly, maybe 80 to 100 years old. So the trees obviously aren't as big. A lot of the trees over here, we have a plantation of red pine, which was actually planted in the 1930s by the Civilian Conservation Corps. And red pine is not the native pine. It's actually, and also here we have Norway spruce. What you're seeing here, a lot of this is trees that were planted. They're not necessarily native trees. Some of the native trees, like this big dead tree here, is an eastern hemlock, which has been destroyed by the woolly adelgid and a non-native little insect that's wiping out all the hemlocks. Obviously, we would have had tons of chestnut. So the forests that we have today have been radically changed by, both the clearing of the land, pests that we've introduced, non-native species that we've planted. So it's definitely, change is the only constant, really, and nature is constantly changing and adapting as well. And the human impact is really, all around us in just about everything we see.
The American the neat thing is, where the damage was done by the gypsy moths and the winter caterpillars. I don't know the mix, but it's a very small. They were fantastic trees. And it's a shame, but we'll never see them, unfortunately. They also, they're older colonial tales too, of bears and other people that kind of... Thank you.